Well, I was 16 at the time. It was 1972 when we came here, and Humble was pretty small back then. It's very different today.
I'm Patsy Dempsey. My parents came to Humble when I was 18 months old, and they were saved in Conroe, so I know that we started the church as soon as we got here.
We got married in 61, and I started coming to church in 61, and then we started keeping some calendar.
Our neighbor invited my mother, so I said, I'm not going. So she says, Patricia Ann, when I get you, I'm going to spank you. I never got that spanking. I didn't really mind her either. So we started going to the little church on Granbury Street, the first little white Assembly church.
In 63, at our church, we had a homecoming.
Of course, I remember the booster band, and I remember Sister Baker's teaching of Sunday school classes.
I remember the CA rallies we had. That's Christ Ambassadors, and all of us young people would go to all the churches around that had the CA rally in their church. Some of the times we had it in our church.
The CAs, the Christ Ambassadors at the time, we had an outing to Dewson Park, which is very different today than it was back then. Back then it was out in the woods. It was very small, and like you said, dirt roads and things like that.
Fire rings.
Yeah. It was not as nice as it is today, but we went out there and we were going to have a Volkswagen race. That was one of the activities. And what that was that you would take two Volkswagens, somebody behind the wheel, the motors are off, and that you put it in neutral, and then there was a gang of kids behind each one pushing it, and that was whoever could push it the fastest across the finish line won the Volkswagen race. Well, our family had a Volkswagen station wagon at the time, and what I did, I was the driver, and I didn't know anything about cars. I'm this little teenager, and whenever the kids started pushing the car forward, all of a sudden things got really hot and smoke starts coming up, and we realized that my car had an electric starter, and so in order to get the gear into neutral, you had to put the key in, what is it?
Just in the on
in the on position, and therefore that starter, it burnt the motor completely up. I mean, the motor was gone. It totaled the car.
I was on the board when Brother Countryman came, and it's kind of funny. There were several preachers that tried out, and so on the board was James Dunn and Owen Monroe and myself. We had three people. And so this pastor came to try out, and so he got our names all mixed up. Now, I knew James Dunn because he's been in the pastor and his folks and all, been in the assemblies for years. But at any rate, he knew him. But he was referred to Brother Taylor, talking about the other two board members. They called me Brother Cush, and they called boss man Brother Malone. He got the names all mixed up. That was kind of funny. We called each other Malone and Cush for a while.
It's my understanding, I wasn't here when the vote took place, but it was my understanding that the vote was pretty nearly unanimous to call Dad to come here, and so we felt very blessed and felt like that this was really where God wanted us to be.
And so I played the piano at the first church, and probably some at the other church. And I was only pianist, and Gloria Kirsch played the organ.
the mall wasn't here yet, so I think the airport had been here for a few years, but it was still rather new, so the town had not grown. It was pretty small.
The last Sunday we was at the Granbury Church. It was August the 27th of 78. Then on August the 30th, which was a Wednesday night, we sold the old church, and then we started having church in the Robin Chevrolet building on the end of Main Street. They had already, the new highway was put in, and so Robbins had moved there, and their building was vacant. And so we was there 3 or 4 months.
My mother was steadfast. She was a secretary-treasurer of every pastor that I can remember up until Brother Countryman started talking about building. And she wasn't an educated woman, and so she could not handle the job.
Well, and I was here during the construction as well. I remember going inside the building when it was still just framed out. It wasn't even sheetrocked, and how exciting it was trying to imagine what was going in the particular rooms.
Brother Countryman had assured us that the church would be finished, and Jimmy, my son, and his fiancée were going to be married in the church. So the church, as things are, the church was not finished. And I went to Brother Countryman. I said, what's going to happen? And he said, the church will be ready. So they got the sanctuary ready, and Brother Bob Henderson, he worked into the kitchen, the fireside room, and they got it ready, and Jimmy's wedding came off wonderfully and no problems. And it was the first thing that was in the Southeastern Avenue Church.
Yeah, it was pretty exciting. Butch Needham was the building superintendent, and so it was kind of exciting to see his crews making progress. And Dad, as Vicki said, was always thinking about what was coming next, and always worried about whether there'd be good weather so they could finish a particular part of the building. But it was, I guess if you really could imagine what it was like to come from a small wood frame church into, well, some of the people will remember coming to this church from the one on South Houston. Well, it was that dramatic an upgrade.
From the second church, South Houston Avenue, we went like a parade, coming, all of us lined up and came over to this church.
One situation where my church was wonderful to my family. My mother, when I was about 3 or 4 years old, she contacted rheumatic fever. The church came to her aid. Each kid I went to Gladys Beaumont's house. She took me, and another one of our saints called, and we called her Ma Kay. She took in my brothers there at her home, and then my older sister, she wouldn't leave my mother. So that's one of the first things I remember about how the church came through.
Gloria and myself and Barbara Maddox were involved in nursing home ministry. We sang, and I played the piano. And Barbara brought a message.
There was 2 songs that I really liked. One of them was Belonging to God, and the other one was Living by Faith. Now those 2 songs moved me. Brother Johnson, Gilbert L. Johnson, was there when I came, and then Brother Countryman, Brother Johnson died, and then Brother Countryman came, and he was here 20 years, and then Brother Poole has been here since '92.